Hey y'all, it's your girl Sha back with another video. This video is featuring my little sister once again. So if you want to see how I achieve these blonde knotless braids, keep watching. Alright, so I just wanted to start off by saying I am not a professional. I just learned how to do knotless braids back in the summer of 2020. So this was my absolute first time blending hair on my own and doing blonde braids on anybody. Alright, so just starting off by saying that, I will put all the colors that we used in the description box below. We used way more than 4 packs, so I need to calculate and think about how many packs we ended up using at the end because we had to go back to the store a couple of times, and I will tell y'all why. So right here, this is my first time blending and I was very nervous because I just didn't know how it was going to turn out. I watched a couple of videos and they were kind of helpful, but it was kind of just me really essentially blending the hair. So taking bits and pieces, putting some on the opposite side, and just really taking the time to mix the hair. As you can see, my sister looking a fool in the corner. But so I really tried to, I separated the hair at this part because it was just way too much hair to do at once. So I really just tried to blend as much as I could until I got to my desired look. So this process, at least the first time that I did it, took me about 45 minutes because I really just wanted to be very precise, and it does take a lot of effort in making sure that the hair doesn't get too tangled up. I did not do a good job at that. The hair got super tangly. There was hair all over the place. I struggled with maintaining enough hair within the packs, which is probably why we had to go back to the store to get more packs. So you're just looking at me blending. You don't want big clumps of colors just sitting there in the braids. So as I'm going through, I just start to really take them apart and then flip them on the opposite side. That's really the best way that I can describe it. I hope if I decide to do this again, which I don't know if I will, I hope that I develop a specific technique to really explain to you guys. So I just took a paddle brush here and just combing through some of the knots and just really allowing it to blend a little bit more. And then I went back in and just took like the big clumps of color of the same color that I noticed in one location and just split that. And that's about it. So I'm just gonna let you guys watch and see how I get to my desired look. So as I said, the ultimate struggle was having all this tangled hair. I don't know how to stop this. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. But this is the final look. Now I have this contraption. I forget the name. I'm gonna put the link in the description box below, but I got it on Amazon. It's for knitting, I believe, but it works so perfectly when doing knotless braids because it's so much easier to get the braids done quickly when you have the hair pre-sectioned. So this allows you to pre-section the hair in the size that you want. Since the braids are going to be small, I'm doing really thin pieces. I could have gone a little bit thinner, but honestly, it gave me the look that we wanted. So this is the size that I went. and I would just fill it up to the top, and then whenever I needed a refill in between, I would do it all over again. So we started on blown out washed hair, and I just parted it into 4 sections. I'm actually going to change the sections, so all you really need are hair clips and a rat tail comb. In the back, I like to section it horizontally just because it helps me with the parting as I go through, and parting with knotless braids is so important. The parts need to be on point, y'all, okay? Because if they're not, your braids are not going to look the greatest. So just continue watching. I'm going to go into detail later on into the video about how I do the braids and how I part. You need shine and jam, rat tail comb, as I've said. I'm going ahead and sectioning the bottom part, and this base is also very important because it determines the size of the rest of the braids, in my opinion. So if I start off with 4, then it's going to be a little bit bigger, but I like to start off with 5 braids at the bottom when I'm doing small knotless braids. So the very first row, I start off with 5 braids. All right, so I went ahead and did the back because it was really hard to film without blocking the camera, but I'm just going to show you guys the parting. As I said, parting is very important. You want to have brick layered parts with your knotless braids so that the braids fall in between one another and not directly on top, because it will look very, very thin and flimsy if you leave it just falling right on top of each other. So not a good look. Brick layered parting, always a go. So this first section, I'm just using the shine and jam to really match the parting on the right side of her head with the left side of her head. So I did the left side the day prior to this, and now I'm just sectioning or pre-sectioning the hair so that I know what the sections will look like ahead of time. And I feel like that is very important. It saves time, and it also ensures that your braids are symmetrical on both sides. So I made about 6 or 7 parts on each side. I can't really remember how many I did, but just make sure that it's symmetrical. When you do a middle part, you're able to do side part and middle part. So I like to always do my knotless braids with a middle part just in case the client wants to switch it up. All right, so here we go into how we get the knotless braids done. So I go ahead and use some shine and jam on the root and also throughout the hair just to get the sleekness of the hair. Comb that through, make sure that my part is nice and straight. And then I'm gonna go ahead and section each braid that I want to do just to make sure I'm getting that brick layered effect. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that the parting is not directly where the previous part is in the row before. You want to make sure it's above another braid so that it falls in between that braid. All right, so I start off by braiding her real hair, no braiding hair added, and I do it twice. 1, 2, and then I start taking the strands and I place it in between my pointer finger and my thumb and slide it between the hair that's holding the braids in between my pointer finger and my thumb as well. And then I braid that twice. 1, 2, and then I continue this technique. I add about 4 strands at the top of each braid, braid it twice, and keep adding it in. So as you can see, there we go. 1, 2, and then I'm gonna add 1 more. Slide it in between the pointer and the thumb. 1, 2. I count a lot as I'm braiding the hair because it just makes sure that it helps me make sure that I'm doing every single braid the same so it looks the same. So once I add 4, I just start to braid down all the way up until I reach a certain part, and then I add 2 more strands because I want it to be extra long. So it all depends on the length that you want your knotless braids to be. I in total add 6 strands of hair throughout the entire braid, so 4 at the top and then 2 when I get closer to the middle, or 1 when I get to the middle and then 1 more when I'm closer to the bottom, just to add a little bit of extra length. And I'll show you guys how I add in that hair. Okay, one more time, just for clarity purposes. So starting off with her real hair, braid 1, 2, in between my pointer and my thumb, slide that hair in, 1, 2, do that again, 1, 2, and then 2 more times. Once you have your 4 strands in at the top, I just continue to braid down. So now I'm going to show you guys how I add in that extra strand in the middle of the braid. Now this technique is what works best for me, because honestly, starting off with some of the techniques that I saw on YouTube, I was like, this is way too hard for me. So I figured out how to do this, and it helps me out as a beginner, and I feel like it doesn't leave that big lump in between the braids. So I hold the braid in between my pointer finger and my thumb, and I add an extra hair by laying it flat right on top of my pointer finger and hold it down my thumb. Then I take 1 strand and I hold that in my mouth, and then I braid down 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then I add the other hair and I flip it around. Sounds confusing, but I promise you it's easy, and I'm going to show y'all again a little bit later on in the video. It's an easier technique for me. You don't have to hold it in your mouth. She's my sister, so that's why I did. But if you have a client, you can hold it in your chin or just hold it up. So here we go. Again, lay it flat on your pointer finger. Hold 1 piece of that strand up. Braid the other piece of the strand into her braid 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then you take the strand that you had out, flip it over, and put it in the back of the braid. Then just continue braiding as easily as you can. I really hope that that makes sense, but trust me, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes, and you won't see that lump that people usually have when they try to feed in hair in the middle of a braid. So just showing you again, slow-mo, how I do it at the root. The pointer finger and the thumb are the most important fingers that you really need for this style. Obviously, you need all your fingers, but that's what you really need to focus on, or that's where you really need to focus on putting in the hair to feed it in seamlessly. If there's one thing that you learned throughout this video, definitely, I hope it's definitely how to feed in hair at the top of your braid by using your pointer finger and your thumb. So I just wanted to show you guys again the brick layered parting. The braids are falling in between one another, not directly on top. So it's now the next day. I finished. Honestly, I took a couple days to do my sister's hair. We live together, so it doesn't really matter. She knows the deal. She's getting it done for free, so it's whatever. So this part, you have to make sure that you're cutting away some of the flyaways. Again, it's not going to be super perfect, but you want to cut as many of the flyaways away as you can so that the braids look seamless and the braids look sleek. Mousse can hold it down a little bit. I thought I recorded myself putting mousse on towards the end, but I don't have that footage. But I'll tell you guys when to put on the mousse anyway. So I just went ahead and single-handedly cut through each braid, which was a very tedious part of this process, but it's necessary. Then towards the bottom, there was just some strands that were very tangled, so I went ahead and cut it just to make it even. You don't want to cut right across. You want to cut it at an angle like I'm doing right here, just so that it doesn't have a super blunt cut. So I'm going to show you guys how it looks at the end. There are some blunt ends, but not anything extreme, because when you wet it, it makes it look a lot softer. So this is pre-wet. I actually hate this part so much. I just feel like I'm constantly getting burned and it's just not fun. So I ended up really doing it off camera and just showing you guys this process. And this is the end result. She loved it. I loved it. Hated the process of it, but you know what? It made her happy. So here we go. I'm very proud of myself. I did not think that I would be able to, one, blend the hair, and two, actually get the desired look that she was going for. She showed me so many pictures and I was like, I don't know, never done it before, but we'll see. But thanks to my girl Cap for trusting me as always and making me go outside of my comfort zone. So this is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to your girl. Until next time, bye.